Hello everybody and welcome back to LMM, and if you're enjoying what you're seeing on the channel at the moment, how about giving this video a like and maybe subscribing to the channel to help us grow and perhaps even check out our Patreon. Today, well, the title is not indeed clickbait, but before we get into detail, let me just take you through some of the basics of a steam engine so you can really understand my point. If you've seen this video coming up here, you'll see when I took my little Mamod and we talked through the key component, one of these being the safety valve. This allows pressure to escape when a boiler gets to its maximum working pressure. It stops the thing exceeding that and potentially going bang. So just bear that in mind as we look at this interesting little thing. Now, when we open up the box, there are various things inside, but we're going to start off with the obvious thing to do, and that's to read these instructions. Now, I like this because there are many pages. Key points of this are it tells us the sizes, fuel, and how much we should put in it. My favourite thing about this is that it refers to this component here, that you or I would call a boiler, as the reactor. And so from this moment on, this will be known as the reactor. Yes, not a boiler, a reactor. The first thing is that we have to build it because it's not one piece. Now, this is also interesting because when I bring this out, you'll see we have a steam in here and we have a steam out thus. If I place them side by side, you'll notice that they do not line up. So the piece of pipe that I have been given also in here, which is a straight piece of pipe, I'm now going to have to bend in many, many different ways in order to make that fit those two. And that's strange. So this does mention the tools that it comes with in order to do those up, and the fact that I've got to do it gently. Assemble the steam engine and connect the steam generator with the main engine high pressure pipe. Bear in mind that it's now just called this the steam generator, whereas in the instructions, reaction furnace. It talks us through how to use a spanner, which is much appreciated. Unscrew the water inlet with a wrench. What it means is an Allen key for that. We'll get onto that in a minute because that's also interesting. Open the throttle. We'll get onto this as well, because that is the regulator, which is, yes, fuel filling as shown. So it tells us how much fuel we're meant to put into this because there's no filler mark. So we have to measure everything. So it's a certain amount of fuel and a certain amount of water that goes in there. Now, this is much better than some of the other models I've used because this tells you what you should put in for that right ratio of the correct amount of water to fuel so that you don't run the thing dry yet. Safety. When using this steam engine model, you should wear goggles. No. Children under 14 should be accompanied by adults, fine. After heating the steam reaction furnace, it's forbidden to touch the reaction furnace, high pressure steam pipe and exhaust port due to high temperature to prevent scalding. Operate the model after carefully reading this manual. Prevent danger. That's my favourite bit. It's not relevant to anything, it's just prevent danger. Now, this gives me some issues. All of this, as you'll notice, the steam passageways on it are quite strange. They all appear to be a single milled piece that's then just flat plated to another piece. And this appears, from the weight of it, to all be possibly aluminium, I think. It feels very light. The pressure gauge is here on the engine, so that means we're taking boiler pressure off that and running it here. Now, what I can do, though, because this is amazing, is I can run the engine. It's brand new, so I've got no worries of doing that. And it also shows that the controls of this are so simple. The valve, the steam passageway comes in here, through this milled piece here, through this milled piece, and then the valve gear is simply a rod that comes across, covers this port, forcing the steam to go down a different passageway through to the cylinder, where it then pushes up, the valve gear moves out of the way, the port then becomes open to atmosphere, allowing that to come back down. It means, though, that if it's in this position and I add steam to it, so it's in the release mode, my steam just goes to atmosphere. So that's amazing to start off with. It just goes to atmosphere. So if you have this there, the steam just goes up. Now, there is a chimney to go on that, but more on that as well in a minute. The mechanism itself seems really nice. It's free running. It's very pretty. The regulator itself is amazingly jank. It's a screw which pushes a piece of machined aluminium. It's very clever and very smart, and I will give that for them, but it is a bit janky, and it feels, everything moves on it, and it just feels a bit cheap. And the fact that you've got a half turn before that screw thread actually starts moving the regulator. That said, when on breath or on air, it ticks over surprisingly slowly, so I think it's going to be quite nice. Then we get over onto this. So it has some lovely features. Notably, there's a catch there that swings the whole burner out, and then that goes back in. It's already got the wicks in it, and there's a screw included that goes in there to fill up my burner. The steam passageway appears to come up here through this piece of milled material into the next piece of milled material, which do appear to have some kind of gasket around them, down this pipe through another piece of milled material to this where they go out. Most of you will be aware that steam does not enjoy 90-degree corners. Steam likes nice, flowing, smooth pipework. This is why on big locomotives we don't have 90-degree bends. It goes around a nice curve. So all of this, to start off with, is wrong. Quite significantly wrong. I see why they've done it, and it's a clever bit of engineering. But that's not my biggest problem with this. Nor is the fact that hidden in my bag of many bits, I have got that, and it's an Allen key needed to undo the top of this. And you may be thinking, Lawrie, should that not be a safety valve? And yes, it should be.
No, seriously, it really should be. By law, any steam engine in the UK must have a safety valve attached to the boiler. I even contacted the Federation of Model Engineers about this, who categorically confirmed that 100% this engine is totally illegal under UK law and cannot be sold in this country. They also had some other issues about this machine, but we'll cover those as we get to them in the video.
Now, I point blank refused to test a model that does not have a safety valve because of what could happen. So I took this up to my friends, and we decided we would tap out this filler at the top and make it so it could hold a safety valve. The interesting thing when we did this was we found that this is made of aluminium. Aluminium is not a material normally used for making a boiler.
This was another point that the Federation of Model Engineers didn't like. Basically, aluminium's corrosion resistance against water gets less good as you heat it up, which is a bad thing for a boiler.
Now, this, on closer inspection, does have a steel plate bolted at the bottom, and then the whole thing is clamped together by these massive screws and rods that run down together. But yeah, this is not how we do a boiler, and this one 100% would not be able to get any sort of certification here in the UK. Now, if you want to take your models out and show them, you do need insurance, and for that insurance, most people require a boiler certificate. Now, for mammoths and things, there is a lot of complexity, but 100% you will not get insurance to be able to show this or a boiler certificate on it. This is a definite, you will not be able to take this out. Now, I have not tested this, because I refused to test it without the safety valve, and now I have fitted the safety valve. We're going to see what it actually does. But I am vaguely dubious about it, because that's an interesting one. So I guess it's time to connect the two up and see what it will do.
I just want to mention that the chimney just sits here. There's no locking mechanism, no screw thread, it just sits there, so there's no prices for guessing how long that will stay. I will commend the guys who built this kit because it comes with all the tools you need, but this funnel is useless. It doesn't fit any of the holes that I actually need it to. Just why bother to include it?
I'll be honest, this one is a tad alarming. The flames lick all the way out around the boiler, not just underneath the heating plate, which is why we've got these guards around the outside. They're not just there to stop you touching the aluminium boiler, they're there to stop you being burnt by the flames. It is honestly quite alarming. So I'm having a look to see if I get any pressure on the gauge.
And in order to get pressure to register on the gauge, you must make sure that the engine is in the position that means the valve is closed. If you've got the engine in the wrong position and that valve is open, the boiler is open to atmosphere and that steam won't be able to build and generate pressure and nothing will happen.
Again, I have put the safety valve on this, but I cannot stress how much I do not recommend having this and not running a safety valve in it. I cannot stress that enough. Having a safety valve is of vital importance. Oh my dear. Oh, I've got steam going places. Oh! Well, that primed. Oh, this is... Oh, that chimney's just coming off. That chimney's useless. Well, all it's done so far is completely filled itself up with water. Let's wind that down, because that's probably what's happened as it's primed. Well, I mean, it does think it's got 10 psi, which is apparently the... Whoa! Well, this is... Well, that's straight to atmosphere, because that's now venting boiler pressure. Oh! Well, that will do it. Well, it works. Oh, that's great. Can I get this chimney back on? Ah. The chimney is awful. Absolutely 100% awful. Now, the regulator, however janky the construction of it, is brilliant. Because look at that. That's my big problem with having miniatures, is normally they don't run very well at slow speed. But this is really good. The pressure gauge is now at 15 psi. Now, this is where it gets alarming, because it says it will start working at 10. It's now at 15 and it's still rising. This is with the engine running. I mean, the more I screw down this, the more the pressure is raising. That is the regulator now shut, and it is still running. It appears that I can't turn it off.
And this is the entirety of this engine's safety mechanism. You can't stop the engine at above 15 psi on the regulator. It will just keep running and keep using up some steam. And the more the boiler builds pressure, the more the regulator blows by and the faster the engine works. If you physically stop the engine and then let go of the motion, the bypassing regulator will allow steam into the cylinder and push the piston to the top, which will move the valve gear to just uncover the valve enough to vent excess boiler pressure, and this will stop the boiler from overpressuring. This is the safety management system. It's just not a good one, because you could physically hold the engine or jam something in there to prevent it from being able to reach the vent position. And it's certainly not a legal one. And when I spoke to the Federation of Model Engineer Societies, they were horrified at this way of venting pressure, because there's so many things that could go wrong and stop it from actually working, including blocked fittings or pipes, mechanical failure, or the aforementioned somebody jamming the engine. It's just not good.
This burner is alarming. The amount of flames off this is definitely alarming. Wow, ouch. Well, that just opens up very rapidly. Ah. That chimney is the most useless thing I've ever come across. Lots of things are leaking. The pressure gauge has got a leak on it. The union at the back has got a leak on it. And it sounds wet.
And that's because whilst the steam is coming from a hot boiler, it's then coming out the top, going down the side, away from the heat down a length of pipe, all the time condensating back into water, and then through more restrictive pathways, which further hamper its progress and giving it more time to cool down further back into water. Meaning by the time it actually gets to the engine, a lot of that steam is now water again.
So basically what I've learned with the regulator is that you can set it to 3 speeds. It's tick over, medium, and running away. Now there's definite clank in the mechanism. Thank you for spitting hot water. I understand why you need goggles for this, I really do. It spits water everywhere. the valve gear is definitely loud, so I could probably do next time with putting a bit of steam oil just into there to help with it. Oh, I see. I think we're now running the burner possibly running down because the pressure's going down. Not that I can see the pressure because the pressure gauge has entirely fogged itself up. And that's basically vented the boiler. That feels like we're running out of steam. Or is it we're just running out of fire? No, I think that's the methylated spirits burning down. It runs lovely at the end though. I am genuinely impressed how slowly this runs. That's very good. Very good. Phenomenally good. The fact that the regulator blows by is disappointing because it means that I can't control the engine as much as I'd want. And it runs over really nicely at low speed, and that's the most upsetting thing, is the fact that it does actually run really nicely. The instructions don't mention putting any lubrication in, but I think it would really benefit from putting some steam oil down the exhaust port there to lubricate the piston as it goes up and down, and the valve, because you can hear the thing squeaking. And a bit of lubrication there, there and there. Obviously the flywheel itself is on bearings, so they're sealed, so I don't need to do anything, but you can hear it's got a squeak to it. So it just needs a little bit more. It may need oil and they're just not in the instructions, I don't know. So the regulator is quite nice. Despite the kind of basic janky design, it works quite well. The problem is that there's no stop, so if you go wide open, it turns into silly speed, starts vibrating and literally empties the boiler. You can see the pressure dropping. Equally, I'd like it to be able to stop the engine, but I understand the idea that that is the safety mechanism. The other issues with this are that it eats wicks. I've had to replace them in this now because it just, every time it gets to the end of the run and just burns them. The other really big problem is I had an issue that I obviously hadn't put my new wicks in deep enough, so it was sucking up the methylated spirits and putting it onto the top, and it started running off the sides. The burner is so vast that I couldn't blow it out, and there was a genuine moment there that I was thinking, oh, I have a problem. And I got a little bit scared. It's also very thirsty. It burns 40 millilitres of methylated spirits for a run. Compared to a hot air engine or one of my Mamods, that's more than double. And the runtime isn't significantly longer. It's very, very inefficient. And the fact that every stroke it is just going to atmosphere means that I'm wasting a lot of steam.
It's genuinely terrible. Every stroke, it vents half the steam from the boiler to atmosphere without it actually doing anything. Every wheel revolution, half the time, steam goes to the piston. Half the time, it's exhausting and just venting the boiler. It's really, really poor. It's a really bad bit of design. Steam engines are not efficient at the best of times, and this is not the best of times.
And then the other sticking point is the price. It is $279.99, which is £242. You could buy a Mamod, which is definitely legal and above board, for just 50 quid more. And I don't really understand where this fits into the market. A collector would want a machine that is more high-end. Sure, the mechanism and everything of this is very pretty and it's nice on the mantelpiece, but it's not what a collector wants. The milled steamways aren't perfect at all. Equally, it's far too janky and dangerous for a kid to have. There's far too much water coming out. It's a very wet engine. You can see the stain on my board from the amount of water that it throws out. And no matter what I can do to it, despite the steam takeoff being up here, it runs very, very wet. It's always throwing water out. It also has the single worst chimney design I've ever come across. The fact that this just sits in there and as soon as you open up the engine, it just falls out is utterly, utterly crap. No other way to describe it. It's awful. This piece here looks like you should be able to adjust it to make it sit deeper in there, but it doesn't move. It's awful. It's almost, why did they bother? The other big issue with it is for repeated runs, because you're putting water in by measurement, I don't know how much water is left. So I'm just putting in more water, which means it's more likely to prime, to be overfull of water. And normally what you would do is you'd take it, walk away and drain it and get rid of the water and start again. But because it's all connected together, it's all it's just not easy to move around. So I'd have to disconnect it, walk away, tip it, reconnect it, and it's just annoying. I'd want it to be just a bit better and a bit more together. Maybe on a base. If it came together and it was on a base, you could just walk and then tip it down to start again. It's just very annoying. So in all, I'm really grateful to EngineDIY for sending it to me, and I will run it again. I have quite enjoyed it. I'm going to see if I can get it going a bit better, and it's quite the spectacle. But I can't recommend it to you. The burner is scary because it comes out around the edge, it eats the wicks, it burns an awful lot of fuel. The lack of a safety valve still scares the living bejeebers out of me, even though the mechanism will vent steam, kind of.
Which, once again, just to clarify, is totally illegal in the UK.
The mechanism is fine, but it's just that it's loud, it's rattly, it's loose, it's just a bit. There are better engines to buy on EngineDIY's website, and I'd recommend actually buying one of the other engines. I wouldn't recommend this, and if you do, for the love of all things that are holy, tap it so you can put a safety valve in the top, because that's just not right. I want to like it more, and I've enjoyed it. It's just, if this was £100, I would be all on board and be like, yeah, it's cheap and cheerful, it's a bit dodgy, it's a bit janky, but that's fine. I mean, I understand all the jankiness of it to try and make it cheap and affordable, but for me, it's just too much. It's not good. It's not good, and I fear it. It's not as good as it could be. It is a working steam engine, I'll give you that. But just buy a different one. There are better ones for the same money. And also, it's where do I put it? I'm going to have to build a board. I'm going to have to get a piece of wood and bolt this to a baseboard, because it's just too. I don't even know where I'm going to put it. Maybe I'll make it long. If I straighten out the pipe and have it. Yeah, not sure. So go check out EngineDIY's website. They have lots of wonderful products, and go check them out. Go buy something from the website, just not this one. And with that, thank you all very much for watching. If you have enjoyed this one, how about clicking somewhere over there for one of the other reviews I've done on a miniature engine, or there as well. And with that, we'll see you next time. Do check out the website, go see these guys, and just don't get this.